I'm John Batchelor, Thaddeus McCotter, WJR, the great voice of the Great Lakes, a recovering politician, recovering political actor, is here to help me interview Gene Countryman of the Gene Countryman Show. Gene is in Wichita, Kansas. This is the storied Kansas. This is the Republican state. Why do I say that? Because in 1854, Stephen Douglas of Illinois pushed through the Kansas-Nebraska Act, tore the country into pieces, created the momentum to break down the Whigs and create the Republican Party. So that by 1856, the Republicans were gathering Whig politicians, free soilers, know-nothings, abolitionists, Liberty Party men, together in a contest to challenge the Democrats, and they were in Philadelphia. However, that year was also bloody Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, the caning of Charles Sumner. So Kansas is the crucible of the Republican Party. And on Saturday, Kansas held a primary. And that primary was closed. That's the significant detail here. The results are not mysterious. Ted Cruz, the Republican from Texas, won with 48% of the vote. Donald Trump, the businessman from New York, with 23%. Marco Rubio with 16.7%. And John Kasich of Ohio with 10.7%. But the overwhelming puzzle to many was that closed primary and Donald Trump flying in at the last moment to make a presentation before the Wichita audience, and Gene Countryman was there. Gene, the audience was overwhelming, I understand, because the Trump decision to pass by CPAC's presentation on Saturday morning and fly into Wichita came at the last moment. Take us inside that room. What was the excitement like? What happened? What did you see? Good evening, Gene.
Hi, good evening, John. Hi, Thaddeus. Well, bloody Kansas indeed, John. It certainly was bloody for Mr. Trump. It was quite an amazing day. There was actually two big events, two separate events, but sort of joined at the hip. First was a Trump rally, which was open to everyone. And it was everything we've come to expect, an overflow crowd, which was totally engaged with him. And as before he was introduced, the MC asked any Democrats and independents to stand. And I guess I figured maybe half a dozen or so, but I was very surprised to see what looked like about a fourth of the audience stand up. And there were many applause lines when he talked about immigration, the wall of Mexico will pay for, and his ability to negotiate much better deals, and so forth. That was earlier in the morning, about 9 o'clock. Then an hour later, they moved around to another building. This is a round building downtown Wichita, the convention center, to where the Republican caucus was being held. And it was held about an hour after the Trump rally concluded. And it was open only to registered Republicans. The first speaker there was Representative Pompeo. He spoke in support of Senator Rubio. Rubio had been in town the night before, Friday night, but wasn't able to be there for the actual caucus, and so he spoke. Our Representative Pompeo spoke in support of him, and he made some negative remarks about both Trump and Cruz, and he was politely, if unenthusiastically, received. But the second speaker was Senator Cruz, and his people really owned that hall. They were very well organized and energized. Matter of fact, when I arrived there about 5:30 in the morning, the volunteers were out chalking Cruz's name on the sidewalks around the arena, as all sorts of stickers and banners. And Senator Cruz, I have to say, gave a barn burner of a speech, and the crowd just blew the roof off. He emphasized his support for religious freedom, for Second Amendment, for his pledge to appoint only conservatives to the Supreme Court, said all the right things in the most energetic and mobilizing political speech that I have heard so far this year. And Mr. Trump, unfortunately, in this event was last. You'd normally think maybe that was good, but he was loudly booed on a couple of occasions. And about 100 Cruz supporters actually walked out when he began speaking.
Whoa.
And he seemed to me to be flat and lacked the spark that Cruz had exhibited. He lacked the spark that he'd had just an hour ago.
All right, wait just a moment, Gene. Thaddeus, there's a lot of detail in there. Go ahead, Thaddeus. What do you want to know?
Well, Gene, a lot of pundits that have observed this have said that Kansas may be one of the states that shows where the Republican traditional Republicans have decided that Senator Cruz, not Senator Rubio, was the best option to stop Donald Trump, in addition, obviously, to those who support those candidates on their own merits. What did you see on the ground there in Kansas that would indicate that type of movement? And did you see, in fact, a reason why so many people decided to surge, quote unquote, towards Cruz and not necessarily towards Rubio?
Well, this is where I have to call into question. I guess you can't say fairness, Thaddeus, because it's fair because everybody follows the same rules. But the how reflective of what the whole body politic feels about a closed a caucus like this was. Had they have taken the vote after the first Trump rally that was open to everyone, Trump would have carried the day. I'm convinced of that, based on the reception. The Cruz people just simply out-organized everybody else. They had the most banners, the most volunteers. As I said, they were out at 5:30 in the morning writing on the sidewalk, and they just out-organized both Mr. Rubio, Senator Rubio, and Mr. Trump.
Wow, Thaddeus, what we're hearing is that Cruz has a ground game and Trump doesn't. That's what we're hearing.
Yes,
that was what happened in Kansas.
Yes, Gene, I think, John and Gene, that you've seen that in all the caucuses, that especially having passing acquaintance with closed caucuses myself, those are a very targeted group, and if you have the organization and you have the intelligence to go after them in a proper way, you can succeed. The mystery has always been, I suppose, why Senator Rubio or others haven't done as well, but that could just be the nature of the Kansas grassroots GOP. Also,
it was a closed primary. Thaddeus, there are a lot of closed primaries that are coming up now. Florida's closed, and we have reason to believe that a lot of the Trump vote, that's not Republican so far, Thaddeus. That seems to be a significant detail here. It might be washed away. Trump might have so much momentum it's late, but Kansas, Thaddeus, I'm superstitious about Kansas. Are you that this doesn't go to Trump?
No, I like Kansas. I'm not superstitious or afraid of it. Although I still am afraid of Todd Tiahrt. He was a very big man. But at the end of the day, you're entering a primary season. But as I've always said, in Michigan, I think we have a modified where you have to select one ballot or the other and vote that alone. But like in Kansas, a closed caucus with registered Republicans would, as Gene says, suit the most organized, which was Mr. Cruz, whereas open primaries and modified primaries are going to be a lot trickier for the traditional Republican candidate.
We thank Gene Countryman. That was an on-the-ground report from Wichita, won handily, I think you'd have to say, 25 points to the majority by Senator Cruz, the organized Republican candidate. Thaddeus McCotter, I'm John Batchelor.